was a moment in history when humanity did something subtle but catastrophic. Not a war, not an invasion, not a revolution with swords. A revolution of assumptions. It happened quietly, in universities, in salons, in books, in the minds of philosophers. And the world calls it progress. They called it the Enlightenment, the age of reason, the age of science, the age of liberation. But what if the Enlightenment was not light? What if it was a replacement? Because something happened in that era that still governs the modern mind. Humanity did not reject God openly. It simply stopped needing him. Not by arguing that God was false, but by treating revelation as unnecessary. And that is more dangerous, because rebellion can be confronted, but replacement feels intelligent. Part 1. Before Enlightenment, knowledge had a center. Before the Enlightenment, Western civilization had a center of truth. Not perfect, not pure, but centered. Reality was understood as layered. The physical world, the moral world, the spiritual world, the unseen realm, the authority of God over all. In that worldview, reason mattered. But reason was not sovereign. Reason was a tool under revelation. Meaning was not negotiated. Meaning was received. Truth was not created by consensus. Truth was anchored in something higher than man. Even the greatest thinkers of earlier centuries did not believe the mind was supreme. They believed the mind was accountable. Because intelligence without accountability is not enlightenment. It is arrogance. Part 2. The Enlightenment did not remove God. It relocated him. The Enlightenment did not begin with atheism. It began with distrust. Distrust of church power, distrust of tradition, distrust of authority. And much of that distrust was understandable. But here is the shift that changed everything. Instead of reforming corrupted authority, humanity decided to abolish authority entirely. The human mind became the new priesthood. The human intellect became the new temple, and reason became the new God. Not because reason is evil, but because reason was elevated beyond its design. The Enlightenment did not say, "There is no truth." It said, "Truth must be proven by human measurement." And that is where revelation died. Because revelation does not submit to measurement. Revelation is not discovered, it is received. And modern man hates receiving. Because receiving implies dependency. Part 3. The new religion. Reason without reverence. The Enlightenment preached freedom, but it produced something strange. A new kind of slavery. Slavery to what can be proven. Slavery to what can be measured. Slavery to what can be explained. Modern man began to treat reality like a courtroom. If it cannot be demonstrated, it does not exist. But that statement is not scientific. It is philosophical. It is a belief. And that belief became the modern doctrine. Here is the irony. The Enlightenment claimed to destroy superstition, but it created a new superstition. The superstition that matter is all there is. The superstition that the unseen is irrelevant. The superstition that mystery is weakness. But mystery is not weakness. Mystery is the signature of depth. A child thinks the ocean is shallow because he can only see the surface. A wise man knows the ocean is deep because he respects what he cannot see. The Enlightenment made humanity childish again. It replaced reverence with control. Part 4. What happens when revelation is removed? When revelation is removed, something terrifying happens. Reason becomes self-referencing. And self-referencing systems always collapse. Because without revelation, man becomes the measure of all things. And when man becomes the measure, truth becomes negotiable. Morality becomes opinion. Meaning becomes personal. Purpose becomes invented. And when purpose is invented, it can be rewritten at any time. This is why modern culture is unstable. Not because people are unintelligent, but because they have no anchor. They have information, but no meaning. They have data, but no direction. They have knowledge, but no wisdom. And wisdom is not the same as intelligence. Wisdom requires something modernity hates: submission to a higher order. Part 5. The psychological cost. Why modern man is anxious. Now watch the psychological consequence. When revelation is removed, the human mind becomes overloaded. Because the human mind was never designed to carry the burden of being God. Modern man must now create identity, meaning, morality, purpose, destiny, value, truth. And that is exhausting. This is why anxiety rises in the most educated societies. Not because education is evil, but because education without revelation produces a mind with infinite questions and no ultimate answers. You cannot reason your way into peace if peace requires meaning. And meaning cannot be manufactured. It must be grounded. This is why nihilism rises after enlightenment, because reason without God eventually eats itself. If matter is all that exists, then love is chemistry. If love is chemistry, then loyalty is illusion. If loyalty is illusion, then sacrifice is irrational. If sacrifice is irrational, then morality is fiction. If morality is fiction, then evil is just preference. And when evil becomes preference, society collapses into power games. This is exactly what history shows. Enlightenment promised freedom, but it birthed the modern emptiness. Part 6. The Great Paradox. Now here is the twist. Science itself cannot function without unprovable assumptions. Science assumes reality is consistent, logic is reliable, mathematics is universal, the future will resemble the past, the universe is intelligible. None of these can be proven scientifically. They are accepted before science begins, which means science rests on faith-like foundations. And if science rests on faith-like foundations, then reason itself is not self-sufficient. It requires something deeper. The Enlightenment tried to build a house using the roof as the foundation. It tried to make reason the ultimate authority, while reason depends on unprovable axioms. This is why modern thought is unstable. It stands on assumptions it refuses to admit. Part 7. What revelation actually is. Revelation is not anti-reason. Revelation is reason's missing dimension. Revelation is not ignorance. It is information from a higher plane. Just as a two-dimensional creature cannot fully understand a three-dimensional world, the human mind cannot fully understand reality without input from beyond itself. Revelation is not a crutch. It is an upgrade. It does not cancel thinking. It completes it. This is why Scripture says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." Not fear like terror, fear like reverence. Recognition that reality is bigger than you. Recognition that intelligence must bow before it can see clearly. The Enlightenment removed reverence. And when reverence dies, wisdom dies with it. Part 8. The modern world is not enlightened. It is overconfident. Modern man is surrounded by technology and thinks that means he is enlightened. But intelligence is not enlightenment. A calculator is intelligent. It is not wise. The modern world has built machines that can compute faster than humans. But it has not answered the deepest questions. Why do we exist? Why is there moral law? Why does consciousness exist? Why does beauty matter? Why does love feel sacred? Why does evil feel real? Technology cannot answer those, because those questions are not scientific. They are spiritual. And the Enlightenment taught humanity to ignore spiritual questions, as if ignoring them makes them disappear. But they don't disappear. They return as depression, as anxiety, as addiction, as emptiness, as identity crisis. Because the soul cannot be reasoned away. Part 9. The strategy behind the shift. Now here is the deeper layer. This was not just history, it was strategy. Because if you can convince humanity that revelation is unnecessary, you don't need to make them hate God. They will simply outgrow Him. They will become proud of their blindness. And that is the most dangerous blindness of all. Because the person who knows he is blind seeks sight. But the person who believes he sees perfectly will never search. The Enlightenment did not destroy Christianity by force. It replaced it with confidence. And confidence without truth is the most efficient form of deception. Reason is powerful. It is a gift. But it was never meant to be sovereign. Because reason can analyze the world, but it cannot create meaning. Reason can describe reality, but it cannot define purpose. Reason can measure matter, but it cannot measure the soul. Revelation is not the enemy of reason. Revelation is the missing axis. And the modern world is not suffering because it has too much faith. It is suffering because it has too much reason without reverence. The Enlightenment promised light. But without revelation, light becomes glare. And glare blinds. The solution is not to abandon reason. The solution is to restore its rightful place. Reason is a tool. Revelation is the compass. And when revelation returns to the center, reason becomes what it was always meant to be. Not a god, but a servant of truth. Part 10. Why this matters today. This is why this matters right now. Because Satan does not need to convince a generation that God is false. He only needs to convince them that God is irrelevant. That is the modern strategy. Not atheism, distraction. Not rebellion, replacement. Because once the human mind becomes addicted to the measurable, it begins to despise the invisible. Modern Enlightenment trained humanity to believe that intelligence means only what can be tested. So people began to worship the microscope and mock the soul. They began to call mystery ignorance. They began to call reverence weakness. But this is not progress. It is a spiritual war disguised as education. Because once a society is trained to reject revelation, it does not become neutral. It becomes hostile. Here is Satan's pattern. He never attacks truth head-on. He attacks the framework through which truth is received. He does not say, God is not real. He says, God is unnecessary. And once the mind believes that, reason becomes its own authority. And when reason becomes the highest authority, anything above reason becomes offensive. Not because it is wrong, but because it threatens control. This is why modern man does not merely ignore God, he resents him. Because God represents something unbearable, accountability. And history shows the shift clearly. After the Enlightenment, the priests changed. Not from churches to temples, but from pulpits to universities. The sacred was replaced by the academic, and a new gospel was preached. Reality is only physical. Meaning is self-created. Morality is negotiable. Truth is what the mind can prove. And anyone who claimed truth could be revealed from above was labeled dangerous. The Enlightenment claimed to end persecution, yet it produced a new kind. Not burning bodies, but burning reputations. Not executing believers, but erasing them from society. Because when a culture rejects God, it does not stop being religious. It simply changes what it worships. And whatever it worships, it will defend violently. Now, here is why Satan wants this. Because revelation produces light, and light produces conviction, and conviction produces resistance. A man who believes in revelation cannot be easily controlled, because he does not belong to the crowd. He belongs to truth. So Satan's goal is not to make people immoral first. It is to make them blind first. Because once a man is blind, he will persecute those who see. This is why Scripture says, men loved darkness rather than light. Not because light was unavailable, but because light exposed them. And exposure is painful to a mind addicted to control. So Satan does not remove God from culture. He replaces him with counterfeit enlightenment. An enlightenment without holiness, without reverence, without accountability. Just intelligence without submission. And intelligence without submission always becomes pride. And pride always becomes persecution. Now look around. Never in history has humanity had more information. Yet never has humanity been more confused. Because information is not light. Light is truth with meaning. And meaning requires revelation. So this is not just philosophy. This is prophecy unfolding. The greatest deception is not making people hate God. It is making them so educated that they persecute those who still carry light. A world that calls itself enlightened while living in darkness. And the tragedy is this: they do not know they are blind. They think they are seeing clearer than ever. But the moment you reject revelation, you do not become free. You become programmable.